Have you ever worried if your logo would not make the cut? All those hours of sweat, tears, and coffee that your client would not like the logo. That your designs, your client would hate the logo. See, this happened to me recently. I worked with this client named Wembo. He has a YouTube channel and he talks about Blender. He's great at CGI renders and he wanted to update his logo because the old one was not that professional looking and he did it himself. So he wanted to get a professional to create a logo for his business. If you want to learn Blender, you can go check out his channel. I will put the link in the description below. So the first thing we did is we kicked off with a discovery meeting so I could get an understanding of his mission, his vision, his goals, his objectives, and start to strategize on where we wanted to take this brand. Now, after doing the discovery phase, I had a pretty clear idea on what I wanted to create. Because it was a personal brand, typically I would create based off a type mark or a name or do like a monogram. That's just how I like to work when I'm working with like a personal brand. It just fits better. And so I ended up creating two stylescapes. One was a more high-end version, then one was a more like young vibe, more like a streamer, content creator style, very modern. And so I presented those to him and he really liked the upper class version, but there was just one problem. He didn't like the color palette. At first he did, but then he really wanted to use the same color from the previous logo. Now, typically I would push back on a client because remember, we are the expert, we are the guide. But in reality, we actually are meant to be a collaborator with our client. So it's okay to take their suggestions and feedback. Sometimes you might have to push back, but in this case, I decided to run with it. I thought the color was still fine and he's probably built up some brand equity with that color. So I was like, okay, let's just keep it. Why not? And so I did present a version of like a brighter color, a bit more modern, and then the same color. And so that just helps give some options, but he ended up going with that original color, which was totally fine. Now, next up, I did present 3 different concepts from the initial design phase after the stylescapes, and he loved the designs. They were pretty great. And so we ended up going with option number 2. And then I went with 2 rounds of revisions. I was pretty confident in presenting it to him, but there was just one problem. On that final round, I ended up creating a version where I colored the whole name Wembo in red. Now, when he gave me the feedback, he didn't like it. He actually felt offended because apparently in Chinese culture, if you have lots of red or you cover a word like that, apparently it means bad luck or it has a negative connotation with it. So I didn't know that because remember, different cultures have different meanings and I don't have an Asian background. I'm more of a Mediterranean or an Australian. But for me, I was like, okay, cool. I was surprised and he just told me to change it and that was totally fine. I made that change. And then he loved the design after I made that change. And then we moved on to delivering that final logo. I came up with different versions. I came up with a stacked version, a horizontal version. I played around with some icons and badges that he could use for his social media and for merch, which is really cool. And then I presented that in a nice presentation in Illustrator and he loved it. And then so I delivered all the final files with the style guide that he can use, or if he wants to hire a designer, he can go ahead and do that. Overall, I was really happy with the results. It was better than the old logo and it positions him as a professional, and you can see the direction he's moving away from not just client work, but he's moving into the creator space, pushing YouTube and courses. So that's why we really wanted to update that logo. And that's why one of the reasons of a logo refresh is that a business might want to launch a new product or pivot their positioning and brand into a new direction. And that's a perfect time to update a logo because it's a refresh. It shows that there's change happening. It also keeps you relevant and up to date in the industry. And so if you're struggling to keep up to date with your brand designs, then you can get my logo design presentation template. You can grab that in my shop. I will put a link in the description below. You can grab it for 20 bucks and it's going to help you present your designs to your clients to make sure that they accept it every time. So check that out. It will help you if you're a new designer starting out. And so here are the final designs we settled on. I hope you like it. Hope you really enjoyed this video. Smash that like button if you like more of this content. So maybe your real problem is actually not presenting the logo, but it's actually coming up with logo ideas. If you struggle with that, click on this video right here so you can learn how to get logo ideas.